We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, the Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love.
For over 85 years, the ministries of the Church of the Larger Fellowship have circled the globe and crossed the walls of prisons. We are a spiritual lifeline for our over 2,000 members in prison, who are also connected to individual Unitarian Universalists through our letter-writing ministry.
In our online community, we offer weekly worship, classes, and groups. Our monthly magazine, Quest, supports the spiritual lives of thousands around the globe. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed even from a distance.
We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship.
We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, known affectionately as The View.
The View is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective.
Since 2013, we have gathered every Thursday from September to June to welcome guests from around the world.
Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond.
We hope that today's show inspires you. We hope it builds your faith and gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life.
Welcome to The View.
Welcome, beloved, to the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, affectionately known as The View. We are so excited. Today we are rocking for Abolition with some very special guests that we're going to introduce in just a minute. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino. My pronouns are they and them. I'm a fat, white, male presenting person wearing a Parker Woodland shirt, black shirt with hot pink and aqua. On it, featuring an astronaut whose visor is a disco ball. And I am coming to you from Peekskill, New York, the land of the Kichwaun, Wappinger, and Munsee Lenape peoples, a little bit north of New York City, where it is a glorious early fall day. Today, late summer, early fall, whatever it is just glorious. The windows are open in my house. And I'm just too excited to get on with the show. So how are you, Aisha?
Hi, I'm Aisha Hauser. My pronouns are she and her. I am a brown woman with curly black hair, streaks of gray, glasses. I'm also wearing a Parker Woodland shirt, except mine has the lead singer, the illustrious Reverend Aaron Walter here, rocking black shirt with yellow writing. And I'm also wearing a kufiyah, symbol of liberation for the Palestinian people, free Palestine. Yes, I'm coming to you. In my excitement too, Mike, I'm forgetting where I am. I'm coming to you from the land of the Coast Salish people, also known as Seattle, Washington. So yes, we are going to dive in, and I understand, Michael, we have a shout out to a friend of the show.
Very, very quickly as we begin, we usually do some sort of roundup, but we're going to skip that. But I thought it was too important not to note that Rabbi Danya Rutenberg, one-time guest on our show and author of the book on repentance and repair, issued a new edition of her book, correcting her chapter, talking about Israel and Palestine, to firmly and clearly name what is happening there as a genocide. And she has been getting a lot of flack in Jewish circles for doing that, but she feels that her own journey of repentance and repair has called her to talk clearly about what is happening and to be clear that you can't atone from genocide and the dead can never forgive. So I just want to give Rabbi Rittenberg a shout out and to say, after the Jewish High Holy Days, we will reach out to her and try and get her back on The View to talk about this. Um, so, are there other things we need to mention?
I mean, listen, I'm ready to hear one of my favorite songs that's been a loop in my head when I'm feeling a little sad. So no, I'm excited to jump in, Michael.
Before we introduce our guests, we're gonna toss it to Parker Woodland for our favorite song.
Thanks, y'all. Yeah, let's do it. It's a hard time to look for hope when the truth can feel like a joke or worse. They tell you it's your fault if you trust. Well, there's one thing I know, it's this: opposites do coexist, and the last thing they'll ever kill is love. The world's on fire and we still fall in love. The world's on fire and we still fall in love. The world's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no. Well, I could let you go, say it's not worth it. Oh, I could give up before we know, 'cause what's the use in having hope? But then even though everything's wrong and it shows, I still look at you and I know one thing could be perfect. Woo! World's on fire and we still fall in love. World's on fire and we still fall in love. The world's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no. I don't want to be naive, but I catch myself wanting to believe, and I think I could take a risk this time. Hard time to look for hope when the truth can feel like a joke or worse. They tell you it's your fault if you try. World on fire and we still fall in love. World's on fire and we still fall in love. World's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no. The world's on fire and we still fall in love. The world's on fire and we still fall in love. The world's on fire and we still fall in love. The world's on fire and we still fall in love. Hey!
Woo! Oh.
This has been The View. Thank you for joining us.
The sermon for today.
So today we are rocking for Abolition, friends, and I want to introduce our guests real quick. Parker Woodland is an indie rock band led by the Reverend Aaron Walter, UU minister, affiliated community minister of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, and executive director of the Texas UU Justice Ministry. Aaron and guitarist Andrew Solon are here today with us from Austin, Texas, and they are in the middle of their tour for their new single, Get Me to the Show, which comes out tomorrow on Bandcamp, y'all. And I'm sure that there's a link at parkerwoodland.com. And we'll have more links in the chat through the show. And we are also joined by friend of Parker Woodland, David Johnson, Austin-based community builder and creative disruptor, who is also an artist who rocks for Abolition. And we're gonna talk about art and abolition. And we have just, by the way, had the first ever live music performance in the 13 seasons of The View, the Voices of Unitarian Universalism. So like we're all a little pumped up. Right.
So to be part of it. Thank you.
So I guess we'll start with how you have come to embrace abolition in your life and your work. Do you want to that's a big question.
It's a really big
I don't know
question.
exactly where you want to start with that. But what led you to go down that pathway?
That is a really big question. And we are on it and in it And being in it with friends like David and friends like you all, and the work that you're doing is a really big part of it. So I'll say Parker Woodland kind of came to be as I was coming into my ministry here in Texas. And it's no secret there is a lot to work on here, as there is in the wider world. And I remember sitting on the lawn of Wildflower UU Church in South Austin, and my teaching pastor, the Reverend Brian Ferguson, talking to me about, we were talking about music and my love of music. And I played in other bands, but I'd never been a songwriter and I'd never been a lead singer. So I'd never expressed my own thoughts in lyrics before. And I have a bit of a sunny disposition in some ways that people expect from me, but I really, my heart is in all of the struggles that we're in. And he said, you need to find a way in your ministry to express both. And so the world's on fire that you still and we still fall in love is that very theme of what Parker Woodland has become, is wanting to face what's hard, not turn away from it, not stick our heads in the sand, and also try to have some hope and some joy to sustain us all, because the work of abolition, that is a long road we're on. And people are living and dying in this fight day in and day out, members of the CLF, our own community, so there's a lot I could say about that, and I have kind of a list, but I want to toss it to my dear friend David Johnson, who invited Parker Woodland to play an abolition concert last year, and ask you, David, about your own connection to abolition and to bringing music into this work. Thank you for bringing us into it with you.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you so much for being so down to be a part of it. What Aaron was referring to is last year in December had an event called Life Fest. And the entire concept was centered, the day was centered around the unveiling of a mural. So with Savannah Eldridge of Be Frank for Justice, I am the co-founder of the Coalition to Abolish Slavery Texas, or CAST. And we were working with a local artist named Niz, and with a gentleman named Ricky Yanis, who is from Mural Arts Philadelphia. And we had been invited as CAST to be a part of a mural unveiling in Houston around the In the Exception campaign to abolish slavery by U.S. constitutional amendment. And we thought, well, we need one in Austin as well. And so we were able to work it out through some sponsorships, and shout out to Truth and Justice League, because they were able to cover the entirety of it, and we unveiled it. It has the face of Darwin Hamilton, who was a local Austinite, I think 5th generation Austinite. Look up Darwin Hamilton and you can learn all about him. And we thought, well, you know what? Events are always so laser focused, or they're just broad as all get out, right? And I don't think that we, do enough to connect information with expression. I also think that historically, let's be honest, all of the artists that people want to see outside of random events, or events like the Eastside Blues Festival, the King Festival, everything is west of 35. Everything that anyone wants to go do, and I'm sorry, I count within a half mile of east of 35 is west of 35. And
so Austin geography.
We're talking about the redlining.
We're talking about that Eastern Crescent where Black people and brown people were forced to live, so that everyone who didn't fall into the melanated pack could live over by the water source and everything, and dominate that. And I thought, you know what? And things always cost a lot. Once upon a time, my wife and I lived across from Barton Springs, and we were privileged to listen to different aspects of ACL from our balcony. So I wanted to bring
downtown. For those of you who are not in Austin, that's the big, beautiful downtown pool, and where we have our big music festivals and all of that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to remember that this is going out. So everyone in Austin, the two biggest concert, the two biggest events every year in Austin are South by Southwest and ACL Fest. And my wife and I used to live across the street from the big park, Zilker, where they host ACL Fest. And that's in the very privileged part, obviously, of Austin. And we talked about how at the root of it, abolition is about joy. You know, I think a lot of the confusion is people mistake abolition for being about destroying and removing, and no, it's about taking that which harms and destroys and replacing.
Yes.
You know, we're not talking about inviting the chaos of a vacuum. We are talking about being strategic and intentional and community rooted in building things where we can say, okay, let's get this out of the way. Because I don't think it's practical to expect the systems of colonizer oppression to peacefully object to us trying to invalidate their systems in one clean swoop. But I said all that to say that I think that, you know, we get caught up in the part of the movement that's romantic. We get caught up in the protests, which I met Aaron at one at an event, and we love the idea of the marches, and we love to, and I say we collectively as more of the reflective of the zeitgeist of hive mind, but people, I don't think, put enough time and energy into envisioning alternatives, and I don't think people put enough time and energy into building community beyond an issue. So I was like, okay, we have this mural and we're going to do panels around it. We already have people there. We're going to have the venue anyway. Let's have local artists come in, and let's have a diverse lineup. And I could say Parker Woodland, the two, Andrew and Aaron played amazing acoustic set. We had Tamika Jones played. We had Henry Rowland, aka Henry Invisible. It was a very, we called it the most amazing event that people didn't know they missed. And I'll email pictures to you so you can see. And it was a joyous event. And the goal was accomplished. And I'll never forget Aaron running up to me and hugging me and saying, "You did it," because I had told her about this years prior. And she said, "You did it. And now that you've done it, you're to do it again." And I think also that is, if those aren't the words of an abolitionist, I don't know what are. Now that you've done this hard thing, it is easier to do it again. And so you can do it again better. So that's
well,
so my music and joy and healing, that's how I tied it together.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing that you guys do at the CLF too, is like, we've got to get people to keep their imaginations open. Oh my goodness. Like, the way we're doing it is not the only way it can be done. And yeah, go ahead, Aisha.
Well, no, I think what I appreciate about where we're taking this conversation is when people hear abolition, they suffer. Most people who haven't been studying it or reading it think we're going to close prisons, which, yes, that is part of a whole. But the more important thing, to your point, David, is abolition is a worldview. Miriam Kaba writes about this. I mean, many people do, is a world that seeks to inspire and support people into thriving. It is not just about survive. We are not here just to provide labor for violent extractive capitalism, right? And so it is shifting. And what I really, I this past week in this country, that's all I'm gonna say. What I realized is we need to lean into what we want to build. These systems are falling. Like, this is not hyperbole. The world will never go back to whatever the fuck we had that wasn't great. And this country's always been fascist for Black and brown people, let's be clear, and to the LGBT community and so on. And so we are now, there's nothing to go back to. What we're going to do is lean into the world we already want, so that as the systems collapse, we are already building. We are already leaning into each other. We are not waiting, because you know what? There's been resistance to this fuck shit is really the word that came to mind since 1619. Like since 1492, like there's been resistance of indigenous people, of enslaved Africans. That's never gone anywhere. And there's also been leaning into each other and what brings us joy.
Yes. And I think we have a song for that. Do you feel like another song?
Yes.
Awesome. As you were preaching that good word, Aisha, I was thinking about our song, The Reckoning, which people come up to me sometimes in after we do the song or after shows, and they're like, whoa, because one of the lines is, I don't think we're getting out alive. And I think of this song as a lamentation. Like we're not getting out of this the same. And so the song is called The Reckoning. I think of it as being about, sort of a plea for the earth and for all of us in this militarized, extractive capitalism that we're in. So, and yet you can also like bang your head to it. So we offer you The Reckoning. Well, the spell that we're casting, it demands a reckoning, a reckoning. All this greed needs a sacrifice. Now or never, leave it all behind. Building spaceships, wasting time. I don't think we're getting out alive. But the spell that we're casting, it demands a reckoning. Yeah, the curse that we're casting demands a reckoning, a reckoning. All this hate claims your soul and kind, marching armies selling you their lies, looking down from up on high. I don't think we're getting out alive. Is this the last sunset we'll ever see? Television snow hangs like dust in the night sky. Shivers of sleep overtake us. Is this our statue in the sand? How will we know it's enough? How will we know it's enough? 'Cause the spell that we're casting, it demands a reckoning. Yeah, the curse that we're casting demands the reckoning, the reckoning, the reckoning, the reckoning, the reckoning.
Ooh,
Thanks, you guys. Can I
Well-
tell you a little story about that?
Please.
So we wrestle a lot in our songwriting process, about what we want to say and how we want to say it, how we make messages that we hope people can draw different things from and find ways into. But we also, wrestle as a band about what we're going to say on stage about these things. Like we gave our South by Southwest income to Gaza Humanitarian Relief last year, or, our single that's coming out tomorrow, the proceeds for the coming week are going to go to the Health Alliance for Austin musicians because we all need health care and our country doesn't provide that. But also, like, sometimes, you know me, those of you who know me, I'm a bit of an extemporaneous preacher, and Andrew's a bit of a planner. So we're always having these conversations about, you know, what are we going to say? So one time in our residency in January here in Austin at Hotel Vegas, after we did this other song that's a big staple of our set, which is Police on My Back. That's part of our Abolition set commitment, is we play Police on My Back by the Equals, which was also done by The Clash. Anyway, I like get out to the crowd and, you know, I'm mouthing off about things related to all of this quite passionately. And then, you know, come back up to the stage and I'm like, Parker Woodland is an abolitionist band. And I meant that, and I do mean it, and we are. And also then, you know, after that show, we were in the studio and he was like, so abolitionists, like, let's talk about that. And that was probably about a year ago. And so it began these conversations, like Andrew bought this book talking about abolition, a police-free world is possible. And we have kind of like a banned book club, you know, a Parker Woodland book club about this stuff. I gave him Defund Fear. And anyway, all of that is to say, like, we're having these conversations ourselves and like digging into what these things mean and what questions do we have along the way. And for those who might see this and might be introduced to this because it's a Parker Woodland thing, but they're new to the CLF, like, I just want to invite you to have those kind of conversations with yourself. You know, you can send me a message. Like, I get the social media messages for the band. We can talk about what it is to be on this journey together. So
I want to ask you all you're all living. I was on a panel recently called Faith in the Time of Monsters. And actually, I didn't hear it there. I heard it a different place. Anyway, they were talking to activists organizers from Texas, and somebody said, you are living in Trump's America. So I'm curious, you all are abolitionists. You are fighting for liberation. What is it like doing that? I mean, I'm in Seattle, which pretends not to be anyway. Don't get me started on Seattle. So I'm curious how.
Yeah, I can say quickly that, you know, we're basically in the middle of our tour. So we've been going around Texas, Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana's next, back into Texas. You know, they're queer members of our band. We're public about our political stances. So we also had to have that conversation about, like, you know, how are we taking care of ourselves, each other, our communities on the road. This is our first time out of state. You know, we didn't know what to expect in Arkansas, in Kansas. We sort of know what to expect in Louisiana. But, you know, it's hard. I mean, I don't even know how to, like, you're living in it. I don't even know how to say how challenging it is, but I feel like we're always checking on our friends. You know, I'm on sabbatical from the Texas UU Justice Ministry right now. So my friends and colleagues are really in the thick of it. And Parker Woodland is how I'm, you know, showing up and speaking out right now. But I don't know, David, I don't know. You know, I was born and raised in Austin, so I've never known anything but this. And like,
oh yeah,
I don't know what it's like to live somewhere where you're not always in the fight, because we have always been in the fight. I can't stand the phrase, like, what is it, like, now more than ever or whatever. It's kind of always, though I will say that this particular week on the internet, I think, has been particularly horrendous and sobering. I'm with you, Aisha, on that. Anyway, David, what do you think?
I'm originally from Chicago, and
I did live in Chicago for 9 years, so go.
And the police tried to kill me when I was 8. And Chicago has, you know, good double digits melanated population, especially Black. Then I moved to Houston in my sophomore year of high school, and Houston also has double digits. And then I moved to Austin, which single, like, under 8%. It's wild. And
Wow.
And I said that to say, here is the capital, and in Texas politically, and if people paid attention over on the big picture, there has been a steady arc of more and more like policy violence from the Republican Party, or we'll say from the state, but the state has been Republican dominated ever since Ann Richards. So
that's right.
We here in Texas, I think, are frogs in the pot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's grown more and more oppressive, but we're in it. And so the rest of the country, the entire country, has the president that it has sitting in that office. And I think the cult of personality focuses so much on the myriad character, personal flaws of that individual without paying attention to the policies on their own and recognizing that Texas has been a proving ground for many of the policies that have been pushed nationally. When, regardless of who was in office for the last decade or so, Texas has been the state that tries things out in a strategic way, and then once it gets through the courts, either it passes go, in which case you'll see it get moved out in other states, and the difference is right now things are moving out at a federal level. But we've watched this happen. We've watched Florida try to supplant Texas as that leader in pushing whatever the new Republican or the new conservative ideology is or ideologies are. But Texas sits firm. And so we've had essentially the equivalent of the president of the United States today without all of the egregious and horrific flaws. We've had the same political mind, the same business center desires, the same desire to criminalize homelessness, the same desires to eradicate the LGBTQIA plus 2S community. Like, we have been watching this every biennial session, and the country has been looking at Texas like we're insane. And I think here in Texas, we're looking at the rest of the country like, now do you understand? And now do you understand why it's so hard to move things?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we are trying to do at the Church of the Larger Fellowship is bring like all Unitarian Universalists onto the abolition train, as it were, right? To get us all on board. So I'm wondering, Andrew, if you feel comfortable like saying a word or two about like your process. Like, did Aaron just give you a book and you were like, oh, well, that makes sense? Or like it probably was more complicated than that. So I want to hear from you if you feel comfortable sharing like what was your process to get on board with that.
Thanks, Michael. First, I really need to thank David. Honestly, I think the first time I heard the word abolition in a modern context outside of like a social studies class was when I went to do that concert for David. And it's not something that's talked about a lot. And I just had to ask Erin, what is this all about? And she was like, abolition. And then she like basically explained it to me, but I just kind of wonder, because Aisha made a statement earlier, like when people hear abolition, and I know like what Aisha's statement spoke to me now almost like, or when I first started hearing about abolition, when people hear about abolition, they think we're gonna take away all the jails and like create chaos in the universe or whatever you were trying to say, Aisha. I just think that in my experience, when people, since I have been like kind of bringing it up in circles that I am around, people are like, abolition, that's not a thing. Abolition is already exists. There's already a constitutional amendment for abolition of slavery. And I think that like, I just wonder, like how we're going to get from like it doesn't even exist as an issue in so many people's minds to like where we would like to see it go, which is like a realized vision for like honestly just a better society. I really just don't see it any other way as a vision for a better society. Like we can do better. I don't know. Does anybody else have that experience where they like mention abolition? They're like, what are you talking about?
All the time.
Like they're already, slavery is illegal or whatever. Does anybody else have that experience?
Yeah. I mean, I like constantly have to like, I have to start with, by the way, the 13th Amendment has an exception in it. right? The 13th Amendment allows slavery as punishment for a crime, right? So like we didn't actually abolish slavery when we passed the 13th Amendment. We made it legal in some cases and underground in some cases, right? And we need to finish the job.
Right.
We also need to tell the truth. I mean, so I have been a little bit surprised, maybe more than a little bit, at how surprised most white people are at the turning off of the United States in one election. The groundwork has been here. Mass incarceration was expanded under a Democrat president. Obama was called the deporter in chief. So everything was in place. So all that had to happen is mask off, right? And so part of what I say is when people say, oh, well, that's unrealistic. First of all, why is caging people the realistic thing? Why is family separation and disappearing people the fucking realistic thing? We curse on this show, just to be clear. Like, why is that the realistic thing? So what I say is, and then when I talk about universal basic income, universal health care, and guaranteed housing to start, we start there. Then we start, and then people say, well, that's complicated. And a million times I will say it, I've said it, and people, view watchers know I say this. What's complicated is maintaining the International Space Station. But we fucking find the money and the resources to do that. It is not complicated to share. What we have to do is say to people, everybody is worthy. There is no such thing as somebody is worth less and someone is worth more. And supremacy thinking puts white people on top, men, cisgender, heterosexual. There's a whole hierarchy. And there is no hierarchy to worthiness. And that's where I shift the conversation. I'm like, you're talking about the end point of incarceration and this cruel system we live in. I want to start with everyone gets the resources to thrive. We start there. I don't want a fucking yacht. So our policy is that people think everybody wants to live like a billionaire. And I assure you, most people do not. Okay, I'm gonna stop there.
Thank you for that. Well, that's, I mean, the line in The Reckoning about like building spaceships, wasting time. Like, that's how I feel. Like, you have one life. You're spending, I mean, we can philosophically, religiously debate that, but like in this one life, that's what you're wasting your time on, when we could be caring for each other, when we could be loving each other.
Dancing.
I mean, what should we sing to go with that? I think we should do you want to hear one more song?
The answer is always yes. Do
Yes.
we want to hear a song?
Well, since you asked about Texas, I think we should do Makeup, because Makeup is a song, and David is exactly right. We always say what happens in Texas does not stay in Texas, which is why we always ask our Unitarian Universalists from outside of Texas to support the Justice Ministry and to help the band hit the road. But Makeup comes from a time that I was with our trans youth and families and folks fighting for trans rights outside the Texas governor's mansion. And there was a child holding a sign that said, "Not ready to die yet." It still like stops me. I know. And I just knew, and I came back to Andrew and I was like, you know, there has to be a song like for that child and for a vision of a full and joyful life for our trans kids. So that's this song for you, Makeup. So lonely in a crowd, sometimes nothing helps. You're always trying, and it gets so tiring. So you call your mother from upstairs, say, "Call me by my new name." You just keep trying, but you get so tired. Burning in your own skin. Can't they see what's happening? You're a butterfly becoming, no matter what they say. And your father comes downstairs, you know who he'll blame. You just keep fighting, 'cause it hurts to hide. bomb, boy, you know you're not gonna die yet. It's your party now, you know who you are. Put your makeup on, boy, you know you're not gonna die yet. Get your favorite dress and your glitter on. Woo! Get your makeup on, boy, you know you're not gonna die yet. It's your party now, you know who you are. Put your makeup on, boy, you know you're not gonna die yet. Get your favorite dress and your glitter on. You know who you are, and you don't owe them anything. You know who you are, and you don't owe them anything. You know who you are, and you don't owe them anything. You know who you are, and you don't owe them anything. You know who you are. You know who you are. You know who you are. You know who you are.
Woo!
No hierarchy of worthiness. Everybody is worthy now.
Well, and I want to go back to something that David said and that Aisha said about joy in abolition and thriving in abolition. We want a world that has beauty in it, right? We need a world that has art in it. We need a world where we can dance and sing and rock out and feel good, right? We need a world with murals all over our cities in them. And we need a world where we can go to space too and have it not be a waste. Right? Like, like, let's go to the fucking moon, right? And like also feed everyone.
Yeah.
And
Terraforming.
also give everyone healthcare.
That's true. You're wearing your spaceman shirt. I should probably be nicer about space.
No,
I'm just a little afraid about our space.
Like it's you know, it's easy to point out the places where we're wasting money. And because the places that need the money, like, you know, feeding people and giving people access to healthcare and universal basic income are not getting funded, right? Mental health care is not getting funded, and instead we fund militarized police forces, right? It's easy to like pit things against each other, but if it's beautiful and if it's creative and if it's generative, we have to be able to say yes.
Yeah.
To it, right? Like we have to say yes to vaccine research, and
Yes.
we have to say yes to like life-saving healthcare for trans youth,
Yes.
right?
And
And
the
it's all
spirit of
about
abundance.
We should say no to spending almost $1 trillion over the next 10 years, $946 billion, just to maintain the entirety of the U.S. nuclear stockpile.
yes.
Yes.
Like we say no to
Right,
weapons of
right.
mass destruction.
Yes. No.
Come on, I mean, how many do you really need to destroy the Earth?
Right. David and I were just on a nuclear abolition event together a few weeks ago as well. So it's been interesting to be thinking about it from a climate perspective also. Yeah. Thank you for that, Michael.
So like I think that's the question, right? Is like, does it make us thrive? Does it help us thrive?
Mm-hmm.
Does it bring us closer to this world where everyone is thriving?
Yeah.
Like, right, nuclear weapons are clearly not.
Yeah.
Right.
You also asked about Texas, and I will tell you some of my feelings about all that also come from the fact that I live basically in the same neighborhood as all of Elon Musk's stuff. You know, so the Tesla plant is here. Like every other car you look, literally every other car here is one of those like Mad Max looking. What are they called?
Cybertruck,
or the AI cars. Like AI cars are everywhere. So we
the Waymos. Yeah.
we really feel it.
Well, and
that right now.
Space as a way to stroke the ego of a trillionaire,
right,
is a waste. It's not. Nobody is thriving. Well, one dude is thriving.
One dude is thriving.
At lots of people's expense.
I don't even think that dude is thriving. That dude just has a lot of stuff. I don't think spiritually and personally any of these people. I mean, okay. I think. So here's the thing. James Baldwin said this. This is not a direct quote, but it was in the spirit of what he said. If white people don't get their shit together, we're all fucked. Again, not a direct quote, but basically, white people have to understand, while you want to maintain white supremacy, we are inextricably tied together. Our destinies, and now I'm being intentional saying humanity's destiny is tied together. So the fallacy of these broligarchs, trillionaire, who really have a fantasy of either living forever because they're going to fuse with AI, or they're going to go to Mars. Like, it's such a fantasy that is devoid of reality. That's like, what you need is a hug, and you need community and people to like you, not because of your money. But they won't let themselves be vulnerable and human. And so, because what capitalism sells is the lie that you can have everything and it is somehow going to fill the hole inside you. And that is not how any of this works.
No. And I was talking, we were on a show yesterday, and I was talking about this because I have a son, and like the responsibility of raising a white son. Like, I know what my mom friends of color are talking to their kids and sons about. It's not the same thing necessarily, although we need to talk about that interconnectedness that you're talking about, Aisha. And also like having some real serious ongoing conversations and thinking about how we parent our kids, but sons in particular, to not be the next shooter, or to not, idolize an Elon Musk or whoever it may be. I consider it one of the biggest responsibilities that I have on a personal level, right? Like, we have our responsibilities as a band and as artists and as ministers to the larger whole. But when I come home every day, it's like, what is my son seeing on the internet? What is he hearing? How can we make sure he understands the real, Anyway.
Well, we have to have a counter to this, which I learned this week, and I don't want to give too much attention to, but this counterculture that is people, we are wired, humanity is wired for connection, and we're going to look for it, good or bad.
Right.
And so what our role as people who believe in wanting humanity to thrive is to create the containers for youth, especially, who are looking for connection, that they have an alternative to hate and supremacy thinking. That is our role.
Yes. And I do.
Are any?
Go ahead, David.
Go ahead. Oh no. Are any of you familiar with like multidimensional wellness models?
No, but I'm curious. Say more.
Okay, so Michael, I just shared a link with you. So there was a researcher named Bill Hetler. He had these 6 dimensions of wellness, and multidimensional wellness says that you can break an individual's holistic wellness into equally important and overlapping and intersecting dimensions. Then Dr. Peggy Swarbrick advanced it to the 8 dimensions of wellness, and SAMS has endorsed the 8 dimensions of wellness for quite a long time. And the 8 dimensions, it's like there's emotional, spiritual, physical, educational, professional, social. And I fell in love with that concept because it truly centered the fact that not only are we not binary creations, but we are robustly multidimensional creations. And the concept says that if you don't, is that in order to achieve like the nirvana as perfect state of wellness, all of your dimensions have to be A1. But we never achieve that on a regular day. Something's always less than stellar, and if anything's out of whack, it impacts everything else. And so not only does that apply to individuals for me, but it applies to communities. And I think that one of the huge problems is that when we look at these issues and we look at the entire transformation of thought frameworks or shared fact versus shared fiction, I think there's an overwhelming presumption that the way individual wellness has been engaged or framed is fine. That it's about having the good partner that fits this mold, having the income that fits the standard, and staying out of trouble with the law, and let's be honest, being of a certain melanin content, and having a certain language as your initial language, and whether or not world courts took the land you lived on and gave it to another new nation or not. Like, there are all kinds of things that come into play, but I don't think we look at individuals. I don't think individuals in a community look at themselves in a multidimensional way. And for the record, because I also shared this with Michael, I recently published a paper to a preprint server while I do any last finalization. But it's to add 4 more dimensions, because I believe that today not only is there a need for the dimension of digital wellness, the dimension of cultural wellness, and the dimension of, give it up, creative wellness. I think there is a 12 wellness, and in the paper I wrote, I introduced this concept, and it's carceral wellness. And in order to truly talk about intersecting systems and the intersecting harms of these systems, we need our frameworks to line up with what fact and data says. And fact and data says that the carceral system doesn't start with incarceration. Hell, it doesn't even start with arrest. You know, it's in the hyper policing of neighborhoods pre-gentrification, right? It's in the militarization of security around schools, while the absolute lack of gun control, so that militarization can be perpetuated due to collective panic, right? So unless we're talking about the varying levels of immunity to or resistance from or resilience against carceral impact, the full scope, then we're not truly talking about our individual and collective wellness in the way we need to be talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I've shared that link in our view channels, and so we'll share it on our podcast as well. Thank you for sharing that model and your work on it. And gosh, squaring our models with facts.
The dream, one of the many dreams.
Revolutionary statement, right?
Hold on. Can I shout out? Can I shout out some empathy?
Yes.
For listen, empathy for colonizers. Let me tell you something. Not sympathy.
No.
Empathy. Yeah. Here's why. We know people in the marginalized communities who hold really poorly founded beliefs. We know people in the marginalized communities who have inherited poor logic, who have inherited poor critical thinking skills, whose families did not raise them to question. Mm-hmm. Hell, I could say that I was raised to both question and keep my mouth shut for safety purposes. Mm-hmm. There are folks. So like, I want to lift up that if we see that happening in the communities of folks most directly impacted, what chance does some privileged white or white presenting cis heteronormative male have if they come into a community that is so privileged it actively insulates them from anything outside of that community? Because now, today, fake news was one of the greatest strategies to ever be thrown out there, because with the advance of technology, so much realistic stuff can be done. Fake news and that was manufactured is actually a viable defense to a certain extent, and it's scary. But what that has done, it is eviscerated the power of truth. And so now truth has been replaced with opinion, and opinion is usually what someone wants to believe, not what they've come to believe. And so I say this often, imagine, and this is, like I said, this is someone who, CP, Chicago Police Department, tried to kill me when I was 8. That took me to death. Snatched me off of my block, didn't go knock on my door across the street where my mom was, snatched me off the block, and she showed up at the police substation because everybody told her they took me. And let me say this, I can only imagine like, what kind of brainwashing must someone go through for them to join a police force, because they've been trained to believe that it is one of the most noble and honorable contributions that they can make to the community. Because part of that belief is that police by default get the benefit of doubt to being upright and upright and respectable folks.
That's right.
Now you have people within a system that is violent against anyone within that system. It's like blood in, blood out. It really is gang culture. So I actually have a great deal of empathy for people that are so delusional that they believe in the violence they perpetuate. So I want to throw out some empathy for folks who are crippled by the privilege that they experience.
And that's important because we don't want to become what we are trying to transform. I work.
Come on with it.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of folks who test my universalist beliefs, and I work very hard to keep them. So I appreciate that, David, because that is exactly where we need to be. So we genuinely transform society, not just become the ones in charge or replicate this.
And if we're actually going to say we're not going to limit and strangle our empathy, then we have to challenge ourselves. We have to challenge ourselves to practice that.
Yeah, and the work to do that is life-giving. It's really hard, but it's life-giving. So
abolition is not easy. I referenced the romanticism of the movement, right? Abolition is long and slow and grinding. And it will drain every bit of energy a person has out of them until they are gloriously and miraculously recharged by the community that they have around them. That's what that should look like. But abolition as a practice is not easy. And let me tell you, I was with Grassroots Leadership, an organization based out of Texas, for several years. And everyone is all about honoring the potential and the lives and the trauma experienced and the harm of the formerly incarcerated, right? You haven't seen people struggle until that formerly incarcerated person is a cop who was dirty and got busted.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's like whenever it's very easy to think about abolition with me. I have a bunch of drugs. I went to prison for drugs. It's very easy to think about abolition for this person that has experienced harm that mirrors your own or that of people you love, and they may or may not mirror you or the people you love, right? But test oneself with abolition, because abolition means you are also thinking of how do we restore relation and community for folks who in folks' lives, for folks who sexually assault folks, for folks who assault children, for folks who assault vulnerable populations. Like or commit harm, cause harm to these. Assault is such a legal term. If we aren't truly and here's a word I give people all the time. If abolition is just so hard to say, transformation. Because that true health, like community-rooted, values-based and aligned, health-centered transformation. Abolition is just shorthand.
David, we're gonna have you back.
And I thought
we're gonna have you back. We're at the top of the hour. We're gonna have you back because we could do.
Oh, so sorry.
You are invited to be part of this conversation anytime you want, David. It has been an.
Hold on. No. Are we done? Because I would love. Please tell me there's another song.
That's what I said. We're together. We need one more song.
If viewers, we're going to go a couple minutes past the top of the hour, so we can have a song to go out on. Aaron and Andrew, I'm going to throw it to you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for having us. It's been beautiful to be with you. And I will tell you, as a word of hope, every time we do Police on My Back and I go out into crowds, whether it's 50 or 2,000 people, the response is so good. So I do feel like the communities, we are playing for people we are bringing people with us, and I believe in this movement so much. And so thank you to the CLF for the work you're doing, and David for the work you're doing. This song is called Benediction. It's a short one, but we offer it as a blessing and love to all of you in this beautiful world that we are transforming. Even though your heart is breaking, cast a wish up to the sky. And even when your voice is shaken, there's a dream to keep alive. The sun will shine, the moon will rise, all things in time, your hand in mine. We are the tide. We rise and love survives.
Woo!
Amen.
Amen.
Praise
Be well.
the divine.
Thank you,
Praise
Andrew.
the divine on that. Reverend
Thank
Michael,
you for
everybody
joining
stayed
us.
on for that.
Special thanks to everyone who gives generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible.
Visit clfuu.org/give to make a contribution.
We hope you will join us next week for another episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism.